What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Combine. But today, it's not just the Scouting Combine that we'll be talking about college football today. We have Jazz Santana and Vishnu from Six Rings Cane here today. It is a crossover episode today, folks. Vishnu, Jazz, how we doing today, my guys?
Excited.
Hey, man. Yep, just got one day, one more day. As a matter of fact, it's 1 day and an hour and a half.
1 day, an hour and a
Yeah.
half. But listen, guys,
Counting it
college
down.
football, the game starts tonight for Friday. I know FSU plays. Hate at FSU. Do not like Tallahassee at all. But Vishnu, you're out there in College Station, right at the heart of the game where it's going to happen. What is the vibe like tonight, pregame, basically?
So, I mean, it's a party atmosphere. I think it usually is. I don't know how different it is with Miami in town versus there's nothing else to do here. So there's an A&M game. Like, that's the thing for the weekend. So I don't know that it's that different. I think we'll bring more fans than probably most of there. Certainly more than like App State brought last week. So I think there's always an excitement when Miami's in town. So I think there's probably a little bit of heightened excitement. We still a brand. But, I lived in this town for 13 years. There's nothing else here. So those 7, 8, whatever football weekends are like the highlight of the year for everyone. So they're excited. There's, I don't know if they're confident after last week. I think if they'd won that game, they'd probably be thinking probably a little bit different than they are now. But yeah, it should be a fun game.
Not only that,
Jazz,
the last time Miami went down to Kyle Field, it wasn't too pretty for the Aggies either. So I'm sure they're looking at that.
Yeah. Randy Shannon whipped them.
Yep.
So Jazz, what's the vibe like? Down there in Miami, and specifically the Gables. Are there watch parties happening? Is everyone in thinking that the Canes are going to win? Is it going to be a close game? What's it like right now?
Well, I think you got a mix, right? You got a mix of excitement. You got a mix of Canes fans saying, well, oh my God, they lost to App State. We're going to roll over them, right? Easy now, right? Take a step back and realize, I mean, still an SEC football program, still a really good football program. Do we feel more confident, as Vish said a little earlier? Yeah, we definitely feel a little more confident considering, what they did. But, every week is different in college football. And so you got to prepare like if it's, like if you're playing Alabama every single weekend, right? You don't know what that team is going to be game planning for. As we noticed in Southern Miss with our slow start last weekend, they brought out some things in the first half that we hadn't seen yet, right? So we started off slow. We had to adjust, and that's, I think, is going to be the battle this time around against a team like Texas A&M, who's got some people would definitely argue that they have a very well coached football program. But listen, at the end of the day, it's a national championship coach who's been around the block for a while. He's coached some of the best, and that's a good team over there at Texas A&M. So you can't take it lightly just because they lost to App State. I think that Miami needs to come out prepared. They need to come out focused and. Led by a guy like Coach Mario Cristobal, I think that all those things will happen. It's just a matter of executing and coming out and punching them in the mouth early. But as far as the atmosphere down here, yeah, there's going to be a ton of watch parties here. There's some in Orlando, as a matter of fact, up your way, Hussam. But yeah, down here, I'll be at a watch party. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'll definitely be there for one of the for our pregame show also. But the atmosphere, it's fun. It's exciting. Miami's ranked in the top 15 right now, and they're a good program. And this would be a really, really big win for the Hurricanes this year.
So go ahead, talk about that Southern Miss game, Vishnu. In my personal opinion, after watching some highlights and things of it, the Canes defense isn't quite there yet, but the offensive talent of the Canes, it made layups up against Bethune-Cookman and Southern Miss with 100 points in 2 games and well over 1,000 yards in the 2 games. Is there a cause for concern for this Canes defense going into Kyle Field?
So I don't think there's a cause for concern. So they did, as Jazz alluded to, Southern Miss did some different things in that game that they had not done their previous game against Liberty. Against Liberty, they threw 8 passes in total. So we geared up to stop the run. They came out winging it. They switched quarterbacks at the last minute. They actually had the other guy warm up, even though he wasn't healthy, and then just switcheroo on us. So they came out with basically a spread passing game plan for a power running team, and I don't think we're ready for it. So after the first few possessions, we kind of adjusted, and they didn't really do much offense after that. So I'm overall okay with the defense. I actually thought, despite the game being more competitive, obviously, because Southern Miss is better than Bethune-Cookman, I thought the defense actually played better in the second game than the first one. The first one, they're just leaking big play after big play after big play. They cleaned a lot of that up. Southern Miss is a running team, and they shut the running game down entirely. They couldn't run at all, so that's a positive. Now A&M's doing a little bit of a similar thing this week because they've switched quarterbacks from their kind of more running quarterback to the thrower. So hopefully we're better prepared this time. But I'm not really worried about it. Overall, like the performance, there's been warts on it, but it's been solid. It's not been terrible or anything. And
So
I will say, for a team that could not tackle anyone last year, the tackling has been excellent. So that's definitely a positive sign.
And I think that speaks to Cristobal and his strengths is working on those fundamentals, the basic stuff that you should be good at. But when I take a look at the back seven, it's untested so far in these two games. And respectfully to Bethune-Cookman and Southern Miss, you're going up against an SEC opponent, which has 4 and 5 stars all across the board on offense, and they haven't faced anything like an Anaya Smith or a Devon Achane or an Evan Stewart yet either. Will Cristobal have his guys ready to play, Jazz?
Well, I think that's the mark, right? That's the signature mark for Mario Cristobal is that he always has his teams focused and ready to play and disciplined. So again, just to kind of piggyback off of what Vish said, I'm not too concerned about that aspect of the game. I just think that we need to match up with them, right? We need to execute our game plan, right? And we need to be able to protect the ball. We need to be able to, do things that, quite frankly, that Texas A&M is not ready for, right? Like the same thing that Southern Miss did. But at the same time, yeah, you're right, Hussam. They haven't faced Evan Stewart or Devin Achane or Anaya Smith or guys like that caliber either. They haven't faced, a big time offensive line like they're going to face, right? So this is a really big test for the Miami defense period as a whole. Not only the back seven, not only the linebackers and the corner and the defensive backs, but the front four as well. And yeah, we're pretty confident with our front four. I think our front four is one of the strongest, positions in our on our defense. However, we have some of the best safeties, I think, in the ACC and arguably in college football. So I think that, if we can get that pressure up front, and we saw App State have some success with that, right? We saw them get some pressure on that offensive line. And on the flip side, Texas A&M's defense, their front line, their front four are really good, but they're also really young. And so that there's an opportunity there for our offensive line, who's maybe a little bit older with the exception of a few guys, to really be able to dominate, the trenches as well. And that's going to be interesting to see if we can do that. We have the players to do it. We've got the skill position players to be able to execute that type of game plan. So it's just going to be a battle back and forth. It's going to be a battle back and forth. And I think that, you're just gonna have to execute. Like, I know it's such a cliche word to say, right? You got to execute, but the bottom line is that's what you need to do in a game like this when you're coming in and, quite frankly, nobody's giving you the respect yet, anyways. And I'm okay with that, right? I think we need to win this game in order to start getting a little more respect in college football either way. But I think that it's important that we come out. And with that Mario Cristobal mentality, we punch him in the mouth. We stay focused. We play hard. We play tough. And which, again, that's the way that Mario Cristobal likes to come out and approach games. So I think if we can do that, I think there's a good possibility we come out with a W.
So one thing, just real quick, I would say on that is our defensive backs aren't tested this year. They're very veteran. They have a lot of games under their belt. So now it was under Manny Diaz and wasn't necessarily successful games, but they're not. This is not their first time playing in a big atmosphere.
Will DJ Ivy come up with the big play?
Last time we played at Clemson, he scored a touchdown. So it was on a blocked punt, but
You know, DJI. That's the thing with DJ Ivy, right? Like you look at him and Hussam, you know this probably better than we do, right? That's your prototypical defensive back in the NFL. 6'2", 6'3", 190, 200 pounds, maybe runs really well, looks smooth, looks fluid, but gets lost a lot of times, right? Has some issues with coverages, with assignments. You can see him kind of not. Sometimes he's in great position, he just can't make the play. Sometimes he's not in great position, but he can make up for it with his speed because we've seen that he's gotten beat off the line a couple times, even against Southern Miss. He got beat off the line a couple times. He was able to recover a little bit, but then you also see him missing. I mean, he's very inconsistent. I guess that's the perfect word for a guy like DJ Ivy, but he's got the experience. He's a smart player. It's just a matter of him putting it all together. If he can put it together and play like we think that he's capable of playing, you're fine. Because on the other side of the football, on the other side, you're fine. And even in the slot in the nickel, you're fine. To Corey Couch, Tyreek Stevenson, those guys. I mean, Tyreek Stevenson comes from the ACC, right? He played at Georgia. He's been in every single big game you could possibly think of, right? To Corey Couch is probably our best defensive back. And then you've got some other veterans that have transferred in, Daryl Porter. You've got Al Blades, who's been playing a lot of safety but can play corner as well. You got to say it doesn't. You've got some players there, as Vish mentioned, that have some experience. In the back, of course, at safety, I think that it doesn't get a lot better than James Williams and Cam Kitchens. And I know we haven't seen a lot of Avante, but Avante is a good player as well. So I'm not too worried with those guys.
Now, just circling back to DJ Ivy, I know a lot of Canes fans have their ups and downs with him. When watching him last year, you're right. He's got the build for the NFL. He's got strong hands, the ability to close quickly on underneath the routes, and the size to tackle with the thumb. I mean, he's tough. He's scrappy, and he plays with the physical and forceful nature. But the thing is, to win in big games like this, can't have penalties. Can't have holdings, can't have pass interference because that'll just help the opposing offense out. And in my opinion, he's too hands on downfield, and his instincts need to improve. His footwork, his balance and coverage, the way he gets out of his back pedal, it's a little bit too early, and he doesn't look natural as a cornerback just moving in reverse. He's got the long speed. Doesn't have the best body flexibility, but one thing that I noticed, just the mental makeup, is that he tries to, bait the quarterback, but the quarterback doesn't bite. And that makes him vulnerable to a lot of big plays from him we saw last season and a lot of big plays from the last two games as well. I do think that, Jimbo, he's starting Max Johnston, the transfer from LSU, who had, I believe, 24 touchdowns and 6 picks. He's got experience. 27 touchdowns. You're being a little bit too generous here, Jez. He's got experience in the SEC. He hasn't faced a defense like the Canes in a while, but Haynes King had no experience. So the experience factor is both on the quarterback for the Aggies and the secondary for the Canes. So that is definitely going to be something to watch out for. But on the offensive side of the ball, for Miami, they'll have to test the Aggies secondary. So far the early returns on, Canes quarterback TVD Tyler Van Dyke, they're as advertised. He's working in new offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis' system. He's hit on 73% of his passes, connected with 12 receivers, and heads an offense that averages almost 9 yards per play and can spread things out and works well in space. The running game has been well the last two games. Henry Parrison, Thaddeus Franklin have 7 touchdowns between the two of them, and the backfield is good for 5.3 yards per carry. What do you guys think this offense is going to do out of the gates early on?
So I think they're going to do the same thing they've been doing the first game, to just try to establish the run first. This is definitely a run-first offense to open up the passing game. And, they didn't have as much success doing that against Southern Miss, which is why the offense got kind of stuck. Because against Bethune-Cookman, they were able to push the defense around a lot more, and then that opened up the big passing, the chunk plays, which is I think the goal of this offense is to basically paper cut them with the running game and then hit them with the hammer, which is the big plays out of the passing game. Didn't do as good of a job of that against Southern Miss, but I think probably the best sign coming out of the Southern Miss game is Van Dyke had a bad game. He threw a bad interception, although it was on fourth down and he had to try to make a play. And he missed some throws that he usually makes. And then at the end of the day, you look at the film and you look at the stat line. You're like, that was a solid game. It wasn't like spectacular, I think, but if that's his bad game, we're in good shape. So I think we've almost Miami fans tend to oscillate between extremes. We've certainly gone from like the quarterback can't throw at all, he stinks, to any kind of bad pass is like reason to freak out because we expect perfection. And none of those two things are probably ever true. But so I think we probably judged him a little bit more harshly than his play warranted after the second game. He's fine. He's definitely, if you look at the quarterback matchup, big advantage to Miami. Big advantage to Miami. And that's
definitely.
And that when you're talking about trying to win this game, like having the better quarterback by miles is definitely a good way to start there. But I think we're going to try to run the ball first, force them to kind of play the run to stop. And if they don't, App State just ate the clock up and ate them up. And so if they're going to let us run and pull off 5-6 yards of carry, we'll just keep running it. Van Dyke does not need to throw to win this game because I think App State laid the blueprint there. Keep the ball, run them. They'll wear down. So if they're going to let us do that, if they don't, they start pulling more people in the box. That's when I think go over the top.
Yeah, my thing is the same, right? Like I kind of feel like you have to establish the run. You that's your MO as a Miami Hurricane offense is definitely that. But I will say that they're going to have to take some chances down the field. It's tough, right? Because now you're down your quote unquote best wide receiver. Okay, Xavier Restrepo is obviously out for this game. He's been ruled out with an issue with an injury to his foot. So the question is going to be who's the one that's going to step up? Who's the one that's going to make that big play down the field? Who's the one that you're going to be able to throw that 9 route to, and he's just going to go get under it and go, right? Go the distance 75, 80 yards. You're going to have to make those type of throws. I'm not worried about those type of throws because I know that TVD can make them. It's a matter of the guys, having the guys where you can go out there, not only throw those 9 routes and just get under it and go and take the top off the defense, but also the 50-50 balls, right? Those are the important ones. Who are the guys that are going to come up with those 50-50 balls down, and you're going to have to throw some of those, right? Is it going to be the tight end on a seam route? Is it going to be one of the outside taller guys like the Frank Ladsons or Michael Redding or any of these tall receivers that we have? Are you going to see some of the the younger kids, Romello Brinson, Jacoby George is coming back from suspension, who I love, and Vish knows that I'm a big fan of Jacoby George. Are those going to be the guys that are going to come in and make some plays? But at the end of the day, I think that the wide receiver that everybody's expecting to kind of just jump right into that spot is Brashard Smith. He's the Swiss Army knife of this offense anyways. He's the fastest guy on this offense, possibly the fastest guy on this team. He's going to have to make a lot of plays. He's going to have to kind of step in for that Restrepo role. He is basically the same style player that Restrepo is. He's just faster than him. And he can kind of do some things in the backfield as well, which we don't really see Restrepo do. But just kind of to make that point again with the offense, they're going to have to open it up. If the only way to win big games like this is to open it up. You got to take more chances down the field. You got to be able to execute and get these chunk yardage plays. And you got to continue to run the ball so you can wear them down. So when it gets to the later, third and fourth quarter, now you bring in, your Thad and you just break the will of that defense. And I think they can do both, but it's definitely going to start off with the running game. And I think that once you start having those linebackers kind of creep up, that's when you're going to start hitting them again. And then you kind of open things back up, and now you hit them again with the run. I mean, Josh Gaddis is a genius when it comes to play calling and setting up a game plan. So I'm not concerned with that. We just, again, we need to execute. We need our wide receivers and the guys to come up and step up big and kind of assert themselves as, the 1, 2, and the 3 receivers, because we really don't have that right now. Right now, we're kind of just seeing who it is that's going to step up.
Definitely.
The other thing I would look at, just real quick to piggyback on Jazz's point, is look at the tight ends. We're supposed to have, like, Will Mallory and Elijah Roy are supposed to be like a 1-2 punch that's really hard to cover. We haven't really seen it yet this year. So look for them to try and get them involved and step up. Because as Pimp Down mentioned, they have 2 first-round picks in their secondary. So attack the linebackers with our tight ends that are supposed to be NFL quality players. And that's definitely, I think, a place where we probably think we can attack. And we haven't used the tight end nearly as much as we thought we were going to in the first 2 games. That could be something that they've kind of held back that they plan to do here.
Definitely, Miami has the offensive firepower to go with, that Aggie secondary. You have Jalen Jones, who's a third-year junior. You have Tyreek Chappelle, who's a second-year sophomore. You have Miles Jones, who's a sixth-year senior. And then arguably Antonio Johnston, who is their best defensive back slot corner. He's a third-year junior, 5-star prospect. Damani Richardson, their free safety, fourth-year senior. As well, they have dudes with a lot of experience in the secondary. And it's going to be up to Tyler Van Dyke to spread that ball around. But, just to note about, the Aggies and their defense, they're third in the SEC, allowing 8.5 points per game, and first allowing 112.5 passing yards per game. The Aggies are favored by 5 points as well, but that's what the betting lines say. And they are 20-3 at home under Jimbo Fisher as a favorite. Jazz, you said, he's a championship winning head coach. They're 22. They're 20-3 at home under Fisher as a favorite, 22-5 at home, and 28-2 against non-conference teams since joining the SEC. Miami right now, they are 5-6 against top 25 teams since 2018. But the matter of the fact is, when I saw, Tyler Van Dyke play up against Southern Miss, I had a lot of concerns about that offensive line, especially with Zion Nelson. I know I believe he's a third-year junior. He redshirted his freshman year as well. He struggled a little bit, and he's an up-and-coming draft prospect. This Aggies defensive line, they have replenished. They lost a lot of stars in the last 2 years of the NFL draft. Can this Canes offensive line basically hold up so that way TVD has time to spread the ball around?
Yeah, so just on Zion, he is coming back from an injury. He didn't, get his full complement of snaps. He missed the Bethune-Cookman game, which kind of worked him in a little bit against Southern Miss. So I wouldn't really judge him on that. I will say the issues we did have, and they kind of happened in a bunch towards the end of the first half, where they got multiple sacks and pressures. They were all assignment busts. They were not physical.
Yeah, nobody
mistakes.
got beat. Right.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit less worried about that. Because if you're getting manhandled by Southern Miss, you're dead this week. Like if you can't physically stack up to Southern Miss's defensive line, you're not going to be able to handle A&Ms. But they were mental mistakes, so hopefully they cleaned them up. I'm less concerned with that. And the other thing is, I think we couldn't get the running game unstuck. So it allowed them, these were like long yardage situations where they were able to kind of pin their ears back. So I think it's still key to get that running game to slow that rush down as well. But it was all mental mistakes. They were, someone blocking error, not getting passed off correctly. You saw basically a go film for any high school coach to just show this is how you don't properly pass protect. There just no one was on the same page. Passing it off to a lineman that's not there, just misreading the blitz. 2 people block one, everyone just releases the other one. There was that kind of stuff. So I'm overall kind of okay with it. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, you also saw a difference when Zion was in there as a left tackle, as opposed to John Campbell, right? So again, you're probably not going to see Zion too much in this game either. I wouldn't expect him to start. Would I expect him to get some reps? Absolutely, but you're not going to see him start right now. Your top two offensive linemen are that left side of it's John Campbell and it's Jalen Rivers right now. So Ja'Kai Clark is right up there as well. He's done an excellent job playing center, and that's not to say that the right side has been terrible. It's just not as good as the left side. So could you see him down the road get a little more burn at left tackle, maybe start eventually in the next couple of games? Absolutely, because you could always move John Campbell over to the right side. And now you've got yourself a really formidable offensive line. So I think that, you're going to have to see some big sets where you're going to have to see a 6 offensive lineman, a tight end, big number 37, we'll call him, but he usually wears 55. You're probably going to see a lot of Inez Cooper as well on the offensive line. He's a very, very, very talented freshman who played a lot against Southern Miss. When you saw them come big and bring him in as their, that extra tight end, and block, you saw some runs. You saw some nice big runs. You saw some holes open up. He's a stud. He's an absolute beast right now. So you're probably going to see a lot of Inez Cooper playing when they go big. But at the end of the day, yeah, Zion's just going to have to continue to get some reps. He did obviously he got a lot more practice in this past week, as he's probably almost close to 100%, I would say. But you're probably not going to see as much of him as people think. You're probably going to see a starting lineup of John Campbell and Jalen Rivers on that left side. And then you'll see Inez Cooper a lot on the right side as well when they go, with their bigger, I don't know if they're called a jumbo set or whatever you want to call it, but when they bring in that extra tight end / offensive lineman. So I'm not too worried about that either.
So to Jazz's point, when you guys see a big dude come in just with like a 37 on his jersey, that's actually an offensive lineman. We have to put another jersey on him because he's
to make him eligible.
Yeah, because he's an eligible receiver in those jumbo sets, so he can't wear his 50. I think 55 is his number. His numbers his normal numbers in the 50s. So there's no name on his jersey or anything. So just see like an anonymous 37 run out there. That's actually the extra lineman. That's the jumbo set Jazz is talking about. The other thing is, as Jazz mentioned, the left side's been really good. The right side's where we've been having trouble. I wouldn't be surprised if there's trouble there if we just, don't bring Zion in as like right tackle and just work him in there if we're struggling on the right side. I think there's options there. But I think Campbell has played so well, it's going to be hard for him to just slot back into that left tackle spot.
So before we get into a little bit of the predictions, I do want to shout out, our sponsor for the show today. Our show today is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest, fastest, and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you up against the numbers. Members play the over-under on anywhere between 2 and 5 players of their choice. You can pick from a wide variety of sports and stat types and even mix and match different sports in one entry. The more picks you correctly predict, the more money you win. Payouts on Prize Picks can be high as 10 to 15 times the bet. Head over to prizepicks.com and use the promo code 5. That's FIVE to get a deposit match up to $100. Again, that's 5, FIVE at Prize Picks. Now,
so before we move on, just real quick, Gary's question. Gary's one of our friends of the program, so I don't want to leave it unanswered. I do think we're going to do some of that. The other thing I would look for us to do, I wouldn't be surprised if we have some like tight end middle screens as well. We haven't, as far as I remember, Jazz, you might remember one. I don't think we've thrown a screen pass this year. Gaddis used a lot of screen passes at Michigan. There's some stuff I think he's held back. And I do think there's opportunities because our tight ends are very athletic to do some screen passes to them too, as well as you get those linebackers coming on blitzes and doing middle screens to them. I think we'll see some of that as well, in addition to throwing over on slants.
So as we get into the predictions, great analysis, Vishnu. By the way, as we get into the analysis of this, the Aggies are favored by 5 points. The over-under is 45 as well. And I honestly think it's going to be a low-scoring game for both of these teams, and it's going to hit the under. Both of these teams are still hard to get a read on after 2 weeks. However, there's got to be some sense of urgency for Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies. They have aspirations of contending for a playoff spot, and they now face major questions before the SEC opener. I mean, they had the number 1 recruiting class in the nation, major NIL boosters, giving out cash to some of these recruits and these kids as well. Kind of like the same as John Ruiz and the Miami Hurricanes as well. But how is Fisher's team going to respond after last Saturday's disappointment up against at State? Will there be a spark on offense for the Aggies and some clear lanes for the running back Devin Achane? The Canes are off to a good start under Mario Cristobal, but Saturday night is going to be a measuring stick to see where this program stacks up under the new staff. It's strength versus strength versus, Tyler Van Dyke has the ball up against this Aggies defense with Damani Richardson in the backfield. The winner of this chess match is likely to come out on top, but the Aggies also have to get more out of their offense to win, and the Canes have to be sound and execute on defense, as you said, Jazz. Again, a close, low-scoring game seems likely, but who wins this game? Jazz, I'll give it to you first.
Well, first of all, that line at 5 points really doesn't surprise me. They are at home. They're at Kyle Field. It's an SEC team. They're still a good program. Miami's, won 2 games against super inferior opponents. However, we saw Texas A&M kind of struggle against an App State team who's actually better than I think most people give them credit for. They've got a big time quarterback who's best quarterback in the country 4 or 5 years ago in high school. Is this their running back Cameron Peoples? He's an NFL prospect. The kid's legit, right? So they've got some talent over there. So, but again, that line doesn't really surprise me at all one bit. You mentioned it, right? It's going to be a lot of the battle is going to be TVD against that secondary. One of the best quarterbacks in the country against arguably a top secondary in the SEC and in the country as well. And then on the other side is Max Johnston, a new quarterback for Texas A&M. And you mentioned this, Hussam. They need a spark, so they went to the new quarterback. It's still kind of a lot of people who are excited about it on that side. You still have to ask the question, why didn't they go with Max in the first place, right? You obviously saw Haynes King start as the first 2 games. So there's going to be still some question marks there. Our strong suit on defense is that front 4, and our secondary is pretty decent as well. But our front 4 needs to get pressure. They need to be able to get Max out of his comfort level because he is more of a pocket passer. Can he run a little bit? Sure. You saw that last year with LSU. He was able to run a little bit, but he's not the runner that Haynes King is, right? So you get him uncomfortable. You get him rolling out. You get him outside of the pocket. Then you have an opportunity to really pressure him, get some sacks, make him throw some, make him make some errant throws, things like that, right? You need to do that. You need to be able to disrupt Max Johnston. So with all that being said, it might be a close game. I think that they score some more points than maybe going super low score. And I've said this same score for the other 2 predictions. I hate predictions, by the way. I hate predictions. But I'll go with the same score. I don't want to change it up. I'll go 30-26 Miami.
30-26 Miami. Now, Vishnu, do you agree with everything Jazz said?
I always agree with everything Jazz says. No, I'm just kidding. There's a couple of things I would push back on, but mostly actually. So I'll start with the score prediction. Subtract 2 points from each team. I had Miami 28, Texas A&M 24. So I don't know who ripped who off there, but same margin, just a 2-point difference. Both hit the over. So, I'm sorry, I read the comments. Never read the comments. Thanks,
trying to fix the light here. You caught me. You caught me trying to fix my lighting.
Tractors in College Station. I will say there are plenty of tractors in College Station. There you go, man. So the one thing I would push back a little bit on is I actually don't think App State's as good as people are now giving them credit for. They lost at home to North Carolina the previous game. Like they're not some kind of like, wow, they're not like Cincinnati last year, like went undefeated and made the playoffs. Like they already have a loss, which we could talk about how Game Day did what they did to go to a 1-1 team playing in a conference game that's on ESPN Plus. But good job there. Yeah, a lot of interest in that game. No one's going to watch that. So that I'd push back on. The other thing is I don't think the atmosphere is going to be intimidating for us. It's going to be loud because there's a lot of people, but they're a friendly bunch. I've been to road. We played like 15 years ago. We played in Kyle Field, and they're loud, but it's not the type of loud where. I mean, there's been games I've gone to where I'm like, they might like literally like take out a gun and start shooting us. Obviously not going to actually do it, but that's like that intimidating. Like if you've ever sat like up in the near the top of Virginia Tech, that is a much more, this is a much more civilized crowd. They're more about supporting their team than really, like they have all their
basically.
They're very organized in how they cheer, which I think has got a lot of publicity this week as well. But it's a lot about supporting their own team versus really getting on the other team and really like intimidating the other team. So it's a little bit different of a loud atmosphere, and I'm not as worried about it.
It would be a shame if Miami fans joined the stream. So you have the Canes winning 28-24, right?
Yeah.
Vishnu? 20-24. So I actually have the Aggies winning 24-20. And I disagree with, like, even though, you live in College Station, just seeing, what
Well, hold on. I
Kyle,
lived
you
several
lived,
decades ago.
you
Do
lived,
not saddle me with that.
time out, you lived in
That
College
D is
Station.
very important.
That ED
Changes the
thing, yeah.
entire meeting.
Yeah, it is very important. You lived in College Station, so you've seen Kyle Field before, but Kyle Field is completely different the last couple years, especially when opponents come to town. And when I saw that Alabama Texas A&M game last year, and I also saw that Miami was going to be in the schedule this year, I was like, how in the heck is Miami going to win a game coming into College Station, going into Kyle Field with a loud crowd? Now, look, I'm not saying Canes fans are like Aggies fans, but they haven't had a sold-out game in God knows forever. They have not been to an SEC home crowd in SEC country with a good team like this Texas A&M team. I think the lights may be a little bit too bright. And Jazz, I know everybody in Miami is buzzing about Cristobal. I think it's going to just come down to the home team, and if the home team can make plays. And I think after what the Aggies and Jimbo Fisher went through last season, I think it's going to be a statement game, and they have to win this game. And I think they're going to pull out all the tricks up their sleeves to win this game. So I have the Aggies winning 24-20.
Fair enough. I will tell you this. It doesn't matter if you have 100,000 people or 50,000 people. When you punch someone in the mouth, everybody gets quiet. So it's not going to matter one way or the other.
I will say we all took Miami with the points. So we're all in alignment.
Yeah, we all took the points. So that's good. Right.
We all took the points. And, speaking about punching in the mouth, a great preview for the Dolphins-Ravens game as well. 3 yards per carry has already said it. Extra yard will be on it. Dono will also be on it. They'll have their pregame and postgame as well. We saw last year, Javon Holland, Oregon safety, one of Cristobal's guys as well, punched the Ravens early in the mouth last year. And let's see if the Dolphins can do the same again. As always, guys, thank you guys for watching the Scouting Combine and Sixth Ring Canes takeover. Jazz, Vish, before we let you guys go, what's in store for Sixth Ring Canes?
Well, we got a pregame show tomorrow that Vish will not be on because he'll be at the game.
I'm going to try to, off of my phone, do some crazy stuff. It's going to be an S show, but I might be able to get video of the actual something. So I don't think I'm probably
the actual something.
Yeah, wherever I am at that point. I don't know. I think we're going an hour before, so I'll probably be somewhere, I guess, heading into the stadium if I'm not there. I've got multiple tailgates I'm going. This is going to be a long day for me. So I will try to click into the stream off my phone, at least give you guys a flavor of the atmosphere, but yeah, I don't think I'll be contributing much.
It does start at 8:00 at 8 p.m. It's myself and Larry Bluestein and Vish will be doing the pregame show. I'll be doing it live from the CMX Brickell, the Cena Bistro, or whatever you call it, Brickell City Center. Actually, a friend of mine is hosting a watch party there, and so I'll be out there with the pregame. Blue will be wherever he's going to be at the pregame, but it'll be fun. It'll be an awesome pregame. Make sure you guys check it out on the 5 Regions Sports YouTube channel as well. Like I said, 8 p.m. tomorrow, and then we're on every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. The Six Rings Canes Show.
Alrighty, guys.
Also,
thank
just
you
real quick, new partnership with Fansided that we're really excited about as well. So stay tuned for that.
Yes. So 3 yards per carry and 6 ring canes, along with 5 on the floor, is on the Fansided Podcast Network. Guys, we're growing here at the 5 Regions Sports Network. Make sure you guys always like, subscribe, comment, and watch our shows, and donate some money as well. Open up the pocketbook. Keep us with this great content that Vishnu and Jazz always provide for you guys, along with myself here at the Scouting Combine. As always, y'all, thank you guys for watching, and fins up, everybody.
See you guys later.